How many of you recall these sayings? Honestly, I want to raise of hands here. I wonder who will fight moral pollution. I wonder who will defend families. I wonder who will protect children. You guys remember that from anywhere? A few hands. Mark? Blanks there. Nothing. You told me that you went to the fall fair. I'm sure that most of you recall these sayings from your entry in the recent fall fair parade, as well as the booth that you hosted during the fair. Rod informed me that each year there is a theme for the fair, and that this year the theme was the wonders of the Bulkley Valley. Well, from all verbal reports, as well as a few eyewitness accounts from my family and my lovely mother-in-law sitting here, your participation was well received as you tapped into that theme and gave people cause to pause and think, not only about the stark beauty of this small snippet of God's creation, but also some of our responsibilities and moral obligations as caretakers of it. Well, tonight I want to ask you to consider this. I wonder what our identity is as Canadians. Have you ever wondered what makes us Canadian, and what does it mean to be a Canadian? Wondered what Canadian values are and to whom Canadians are loyal to? Should you ask various people these questions about what they perceive our identity to be, you are bound to receive a plethora of answers. Not so long ago, you will recall, just this past February, Vancouver, British Columbia, and all of Canada, in fact, had the opportunity to host the Olympic Games. The Olympic experience was viewed by all who took part as something quite extraordinary, an event that captured the hearts of the nation. My family and I, we also had an opportunity to go downtown to take in the festivities, and as we look back on that period of 17 days, as well as the 12 days of the Paralympic Games that followed, we can observe that Canadians put their differences aside and let sports, and all things associated with sports, be the very thing that defined their identity. Much was said as well as written, especially as the games wound down, about that feeling that had come over the city, indeed over the entire nation. Many commentators wondered aloud about this special feeling, how good it would be if it could continue even beyond the Olympics. But now the games are long over. Life is back to normal, and that thing, that special feeling that we all identify with, is gone. You see, people, we need something deeper to unite us, to cause us to practice loyalty. We need something deeper to identify with. Again, consider the question, what is our identity? Or, more specifically, our Canadian identity. Well, up to now, it may seem to have been sufficient to find our identity in the fact that we are an open, tolerant people. We have been led to understand that to be Canadian means that we don't discriminate, and we tolerate everything that does not have a direct impact on us or on those closest to us. To make this our identity, to adhere to this humanistic way of thinking, is not working, and it will not work. Since Pierre Trudeau introduced his famous, or should I say infamous, Omnibus Bill some 43 years ago, Canada has embarked on a social engineering experiment that has done an incredible amount of damage on our society. Two important examples are as follows. In the first place, we have no-fault divorce that has made it possible for parents to renege on their responsibilities, both towards their spouse as well as their children. And secondly, we have the decriminalization of both abortion and homosexuality that has had serious negative impacts on both the healthcare system as well as the economic viability of our country. Recently, this has caused the Parliamentary Budget Officer, Kevin Page, to warn parliamentarians that if they don't do anything to promote an increased birth rate, ours right now stands at 1.5 children per childbearing woman, drastic measures will have to be taken, like program cuts and tax increases, just so we can sustain the economy as we have it now, never mind allowing it to grow. Considering that for so long now we have been lacking any abortion law, as well as the more recent pushes to legalize euthanasia, it has become clear that we are a country that does not value human life. life has become cheap, as persons on both ends of the demographic spectrum are expendable. We also have activist judges and negligent, cowardly politicians who have somehow thought it in their realm of responsibility to redefine what human dignity is. But I would submit to you people that we know better. We know that human dignity is not for us to define. God is the one who has created each one of us in his image. All Canadians, in fact, in his image. Our dignity is from him. He has given us our worthiness, and we all have it, whether old or young, newly conceived or on our deathbed, able-bodied or challenged, either mentally or physically. God values us all. Therefore, we should have the same attitude towards our fellow citizens. But due to the rampant spread of moral relativism and radical materialism, nobody seems to care anymore. Well, they care, but only about themselves. But we must learn from what is happening, not only here in Canada, but in other Western cultures as well. Many Europeans are now coming to the recognition that that wide-open, tolerant approach they had to every type of identifying factor is having dire consequences on the social and moral fabric of their cultures. People, to bring this point even closer to home, many of you may have heard that the Quebec provincial government is trying to deal with the issue of face and head coverings on Muslim women. What is noticeable and is indeed to be lauded is that elected leaders in Quebec are willing to take the step of banning the burqa and niqab for all people employed in public service. What is to be lamented is that this is simply reactionary to something that should and indeed could have been avoided if only our federal leaders would be bold enough and have the courage to show principled leadership. It is becoming clear that Canada is a nation which is showing itself to be void of an identity. In fact, our identity has become whatever is relevant at any given moment in history.